Entrepreneurship, I'm going to repeat it, is the best personal development program on the planet with the best potential compensation plan attached to it. That's what entrepreneurship is to me. That's how I define it. Because again, I know what I'm after, and I know the goals, dreams, desires that this thing can help me to accomplish if I maintain these traits, or I adopt these traits, and I move forward with the required action to get what I want. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Success Spectrum podcast, where we dive deep into the world of finance, entrepreneurship, and personal development. The focus of this episode is to answer 3 questions, because you might be an entrepreneur, or you might be thinking about going into entrepreneurship, or you're hearing of the buzzword entrepreneurship. What is it? So these 3 questions are: number 1, should everybody be an entrepreneur? Number 2, what is the entrepreneur mindset? And 3, what are some traits of a successful entrepreneur? That is the focus of this episode. So stay tuned, listen to the whole episode, and let's go ahead and dive in. Now, personally, I didn't hear about the word entrepreneurship until I was in college, and I had no idea what it was, but the program, or rather the course that I was taking, was Entrepreneurship 101 or something along those lines. And I had no idea what the term was, never heard of it before, but I looked it up and I had no interest in it. No interest whatsoever. The class was boring. Sorry to the professor, but the class was boring and I had no interest whatsoever. Me and my friends at the time, we were just like, what is this? Why are we doing this? We're not going to be entrepreneurs, because of course, throughout all of our lives, we typically heard, get a good job. And so that was the focus. I didn't know what this entrepreneurship thing was. I didn't care for it. The only thing I do remember slightly from that course was we talked about a business plan. And that, to me, again, was boring and unnecessary, because I don't need this. I'm going to get a good job. I'm in the IT field, right? So I didn't care for it, didn't focus on it. But ironically, years later, I realized that entrepreneurship is the only way for me to go. To be an entrepreneur, that's the only way for me personally to go. Why? Because for me, entrepreneurship will be able to provide what I'm looking for. It helped me to accomplish certain goals that a job is not going to help me to accomplish. Again, I'm saying me specifically. It might help you. It's not going to help me to accomplish my goals. It's not going to help me to have the freedom and control for my life, my finances that I want. It's not going to help me to take my family on a 1-month vacation, cover all expenses, and not have to worry about the bill. It's covered. Don't worry about how the bills at home are getting paid. It's covered. Entrepreneurship for me is the only way that I can achieve my goals, my dreams, my desires, right? And further to that, I've heard people define certain things a certain way, and I'm going to borrow that. And Malet actually described it this way as well. But entrepreneurship specifically, to me, is the best personal development program on the planet with, depending on your resilience, the best compensation package attached to it. Entrepreneurship, I'm going to repeat it, is the best personal development program on the planet with the best potential compensation plan attached to it. That's what entrepreneurship is to me. That's how I define it. Because again, I know what I'm after, and I know the goals, dreams, desires that this thing can help me to accomplish if I maintain these traits, or I adopt these traits, and I move forward with the required action to get what I want. And now, a word from our sponsor. If you want to learn to amass your wealth in stocks, bonds, real estate, in commodities, if you want to learn how to protect your wealth or transfer generationally down the line in the way that you want it to be transferred, this book right here is a must read for you. The Legacy of a Silver Spoon: Managing Wealth and Relationships by Al Compton. You must get yourself a copy, because you need it. If you want to do anything that I just mentioned, without reading this book, you're not going to be able to do it in the way that you want to get it done. You might not even know that there's different types of trust or which type of trust you need. This book will help you in determining that. You might not even know what a stock is or what a bond is. This book will teach you every piece of information you need to know financially to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Go ahead and click that link in the description to get yourself a copy. So to answer number 1 and 2, entrepreneurship, should everybody be an entrepreneur? Technically, yes. And listen to me on this one. I'll explain. Technically, yes. Now, to go into number 2, there's something called the entrepreneur mindset. I believe that everybody should operate with an entrepreneur mindset. Why? Because as an entrepreneur, you know You can't argue the fact it's all on you. If something goes well, if you have a team, yes, give them the praise. But if something goes wrong, you take that. It's a knock on your chin. It's on you. You're the leader. You are the one who, if you don't do anything, you don't get results, you don't get paid. The entrepreneur mindset requires certain traits, right? And again, as an entrepreneur, you know if you don't produce, nothing is coming in. As an employee, you can not produce, let's say, or you can produce a couple days work and 2 weeks go by, you get your pay. You didn't really produce anything in that 2 weeks, but you still get your pay because you're paid on the time. As an entrepreneur, you're paid on your results. As an entrepreneur as well, you have to have a certain level of drive. You have to have a certain level of work ethic, and you have to have a certain level of integrity for yourself and integrity to your clients. Because arguably, you cannot have integrity to your clients if you don't have integrity yourself. It's required, right? And I believe all of these things, all of these traits that I'm talking about tie into your employment. It helps you, if you have these traits and you're an employee, it helps you to have that drive, that work ethic, to get recognized by the higher ups or your manager for the work that you're putting out. Because you're operating in a way where if I don't produce results, I won't get paid. Therefore, you're going to produce more results than your coworkers, and you're going to get recognized. Whether that's in an extra pay, whether that's in, a pat on the back, whatever the case is, I'm not going to get into all of that, but you will get noticed because you're putting in more work. That is how you can adopt these traits as an entrepreneur, or rather adopt that entrepreneur mindset as an employee. Now, a caveat to question 1, should everybody be a full-time entrepreneur? Probably not. I talked about if everybody should be an entrepreneur. Yes, technically, but a full-time entrepreneur? Probably not. Why? Because entrepreneurship comes with a lot of pressure. Pressure from all angles, pressure from family, pressure from friends. They're all telling you you can't do it. I don't even like to say the word, but they're all telling you you're not going to be able to do it. What are you doing? Go get a job, go get regular income. Like, why are you trying to be an entrepreneur and do this thing? And they don't make money. And they're just trying to shut down your goals, your dreams, your desires, right? That's one angle, but there's obstacles that come along the way. Even if you don't face those pressures of family and friends, or your own negative thoughts, you're going to face pressure in other areas. You're trying to accomplish a certain goal for your business as an entrepreneur, you're going to face roadblocks. You're going to face road bumps. You're going to face potholes and go through these minefields. There's a lot of pressure that comes with it. And guess what? Most people, they can't handle pressure. Maybe they never face it in their life, so they're not sure or familiar with it. Or for whatever reason, they just crack and break under pressure. And so if that's you you can't handle pressure, yeah, you're probably okay sticking to your regular job and not being a full-time entrepreneur. Some people also love their jobs. They love what they do. They love their coworkers. They love the fulfillment it gives them and the freedom and flexibility it provides them. Some people love literally showing up to work and the routine it provides. However, they may not love the financial lifestyle that it provides them, because financially their job isn't taking care of them, but they love every other aspect of their job, and that's okay too. But now what can you do? Well, you can take whatever little excess or whatever amount you can find that you're getting paid from your job to go put it into some type of investment, some type of, let's say, real estate, for example. You get a real estate investment property, you hire a property manager. The property manager is the one that takes care of the property. They fill it with tenants. They deal with any tenant issues. They deal with whatever equipment may need to be fixed, and you just get the bill for it for the most part. Therefore, you don't have to worry about what's going on in this rental unit for the most part, or on this rental property, because the property manager is taking care of it. So you can take your time and still focus on your career, on your advancement, and, in that fulfillment, because you love your job. But what did that do for you? You now have an income producing asset that is, again, producing cash flow and income for you. And therefore, that one thing you didn't love about your job is being taken care of in another manner. So what did that do for you? Now you stepped into entrepreneurship or investing. You're not a full-time entrepreneur because you still have your job, but you are technically an entrepreneur or an investor, just not full-time. And now, depending on how many properties you go out and buy, how many investment properties, and how much rental income you have coming in, you can now retire earlier. You can take bigger and better vacations. You can give back more in a way that you weren't able to before. You can completely change the lifestyle that you provide your family that a job would not be able to provide. Now, to clarify, I have nothing against jobs. I still have a full-time job in the IT realm, but I have these other businesses and things that I'm doing as well. So nothing against jobs, but I'm just saying, again, we've heard about entrepreneurship and we hear about it so much nowadays. It's a buzzword. So I just wanted to come on here and clarify some of these things for us to help give us a different perspective on what entrepreneurship is, so we can view it a little bit differently. Because everybody thinks they need to be an entrepreneur, and that's not necessarily the case, right? You don't need to be a full-time entrepreneur. If you love your job, stay with your job. But here's another realm or another aspect or way you can step into entrepreneurship if you still have a little bit of an interest in it, right? I mentioned the investment property. Maybe you don't do that. Maybe you just have a skill or a gift in doing something else, whether it's crafts, whether it's photography, whatever the case might be. And I've did an episode on this previously, and you just do that part-time. And that'll help to increase your income as well, but you're also fulfilled in doing that because it's something you love to do. So now you're doing two things you love to do. It's not taking up too much time because you love doing these things anyway. But that secondary thing that you're doing, that business you started, is helping to increase your income. Now the job itself that you love doing also, the income from that or the lack of income from that isn't such a stressor because you're making more on the business to supplement it. So lastly, this is all great, but what do you have to do to adopt this lifestyle, or what do you have to become to adopt this lifestyle? That leads me into question number 3 again, which is some of the traits of a successful entrepreneur. Number 1 is you have to have courage, right? You have to have calculated courage. You have to be able to make bold decisions, not reckless decisions, but bold decisions based off of data, right? Based off of gut feeling and data. It's good to feel the feeling, but where's the data behind it? Don't just think, oh, I see people doing this or I see people doing it that way. Great, that way may not work for you. So where's the data behind it to say it will work for you? You have to know the data, have that gut feeling, and then be able to follow that. That's courage. That's calculated courage. You also have to be an opportunity alchemist. An opportunity alchemist is somebody that sees, well, the world is seeing chaos, right? You see opportunity. Like the pandemic, for example, there were 4.4 million new businesses created in the US in 2020, right? During the pandemic. And that number was about 24, I believe, % increase from 2019, the year prior. A 24% increase in businesses because of the pandemic. People saw opportunity and people started businesses in that opportunity, right? The pandemic, everything was shut down. For anybody who's not familiar, I don't know where you were in the world, but for anyone who doesn't know, 4.4 new businesses in 2020, about a 24% increase from the previous year. So again, those were opportunity alchemists. They saw opportunity, they saw the way the world was going, and they created new businesses to try to meet the need of the people. Become an opportunity alchemist. Number 3 is self-made accountability. You have to have the highest standard for yourself. There are people oftentimes rather, who will tell me certain things. They'll tell me what I did do, what I didn't do, what I should have done differently, and the whole 9 yards. And every time they're trying to critique me, I already know because I have the highest standard for myself. I set my own standard and I have personal integrity and personal standards for myself. So I set the standard, and whatever other people are telling me, I listen, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I have the integrity and high standard for myself to where I focus and I know what I did or what I didn't do. By the time you come and tell me, I've already thought about it 3, 4, 5 times, right? So set that high standard for yourself and have self-made accountability. You also need to be a long-term player. Don't make decisions just for today, but plan for the future, right? Make decisions that'll help you to have sustainable success, not just immediate success. Don't focus on the immediate because the immediate fades. Focus on that stability, that proper foundation. And if you set that proper foundation, you have the long-term player, you have a long-term focus, and you'll be able to pass that business on generationally down the line if that's your focus. But at the same time, while you're alive, you're making decisions that'll bring in income years down the line as opposed to just this week. And the last one, relentless adaptability. You have to have a spirit of being relentless. When it comes to entrepreneurship, I talked about some of the pressure you will face. I didn't talk about all the pressure you will face, but there's a lot of grime, there's a lot of grit, there's a lot of things that'll be thrown your way. Rocks, not good things, right? Rocks, tomatoes, whatever you want to call it, but there's a lot of pressure that will come your way. But a pot without pressure, with water in it, let's say, won't boil. You need to turn up the heat. Whether you want to or not, the heat will be turned up, right? Whether or not you can handle that pressure, that boiling water, that'll determine whether or not you become successful. That's why I left this point until last, because there are pivots. There are iterations that you will have to make. There are decisions you will have to make that turn your gut because of your fear, maybe sometimes because of your doubt, because of your uncertainty. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to adapt. Because if you do not adapt, if you do not change, if you do not iterate, you will be left behind. Your business will not grow. You have to have a spirit of being relentless when it comes to entrepreneurship. Life itself is tough. Entrepreneurship is its own ball game, right? I talked about the pressure potentially cracking people. It's okay to get those cracks, because you will, as an entrepreneurship, get some cracks. Or as an entrepreneur, rather, get some cracks, right? You'll face losses. You'll face certain situations where it's like, how do I continue? But the idea is, through all of these situations, through all of these losses, you do not lose momentum. You may fall down, but get right back up. Roll over, get up, and keep going. And with those cracks, because that counts as a crack right there, there's something called, I don't know 100% how to pronounce it. I've heard it pronounced two different ways. Kintsugi or kintsugi, right? Probably kintsugi, I don't know. But however you pronounce it, if you know, leave me a comment so you can clarify for me, please and thank you. But that right there is, I believe it's Chinese pottery. Forgive me if I got the country wrong. But what they do is they take broken pieces of pottery and they use gold to piece it back together. So those cracks, those losses that you face as an entrepreneur, though, if you see those and understand that those are actually lessons that you can learn so that you can avoid that mistake next time and help to elevate your business going down the line, you've now placed gold in those cracks. You are now operating in a form of kintsugi. So now you're filling those losses, those cracks, with gold, because those lessons will become gold as you go down the line and operate your business in a way that you didn't operate before, right? So those cracks that you face, those losses, realize the opportunity in them, because those are gold. Relentless adaptability. All right. Hopefully this episode was helpful for you. Hopefully you got something out of it and you have a different perspective on entrepreneurship, one way or another, whether you're just starting out, whether you have a job, or whether you are already an entrepreneur. Hopefully this helped to shape your mind a little bit differently. And remember, every step you take is taking you one step closer to being able to evolve and reach your apex. All right, Kadeem here, and I'll see you on the next one.